All right. Hello, everybody. Happy Thursday. I am hopping on live in our group to do one last day of our Mark Batterson Win the Day Book Club book here. Highly recommend you guys get it and read it for yourselves or listen to it on Audible. I'm such a pen to paper person where I can underline things and write things down. Audible, I'm like a squirrel. Things don't retain in my brain unless I can actually see the words and highlight them. But this is a huge recommendation that I think everybody on our team should read. And like I said in our first Zoom that we did together, this is not a business book, but there are so many business principles that we can take from what he has to say about just these 7 different habits that we're learning about on how to just be effective in our lives and in our Plexus businesses. So the first day that we met together, I talked about dealing with our past, right? Making sure that we kind of deal with the past in our lives so that we can move forward and be able to win the day in front of us. And then yesterday we talked about those habits for how to win the day today, right? Eat the frog and fly the kite. And so I asked you guys, what were some things in your life that you need? What's the frog that you need to eat today in your business that you've been avoiding, right? What are some things, what little tiny things do you want to do in your life to help you be more effective in your daily habits, right? We talked about habit stacking. And so today we're going to do the last 3 habits, and we're talking about now we're moving our attention toward the future, toward imagining unborn tomorrows, which I really, really love, kind of talking about legacy. So one of the quotes that he says is, God's vision for our lives is far bigger than the visions that we have for our own lives. His ideas and his dreams for us are far bigger than our own, which I think is really exciting. Another quote was, show me the size of your dream and I'll show you the size of your God. How big are your dreams? How big is God in your life? Imagining unborn tomorrows involves us turning our attention toward the future. And he talks about he says, I would rather have one God-sized dream than 1,000 good dreams. You know, one huge God-sized dream for my life than just a bunch of little piddly dreams from my own little pea brain. And so I love that. So this, how the book has challenged me is like, God, I'm praying like, God, what dreams do you have for my life? Show me where I'm supposed to dream bigger and pray bigger and pray bolder. Show me. And I want to live that out and I want to walk that out. And how do we get God-sized ideas? We get those by praying, right? And by asking God to show us. Show me what dreams you have for my life, big and small. But don't be afraid to dream the big dreams and to pray the big, bold prayers. Okay, praying is a form of dreaming. Dreaming is a form of praying, right? Okay, so we live our lives forward, right? So we're living our lives looking into the future, but God's dreams for us, like that verse that I shared in one of our other talks where it says we are his workmanship created in Christ Jesus to do good works long before the world began. He knows how our life is going to turn out, right? Like he has our life already planned for us. So we're looking forward, but because he exists outside of space and time, he's looking even like backwards at us. Like he knows what we're going to do. He knows the plans he has for us. He knows how our lives are going to turn out. We're just walking in those dreams. Okay, so habit number 5, we've got 3 habits left, is cut the rope. And the big idea underneath that is that playing safe is risky. So cutting the rope, this habit is about taking calculated risks. And so there's this delicate dance, there's this tightrope walk between presumption and procrastination, right? And so we do need to take calculated risks in life, right? Planning to fail is failing to plan. So we have to have a plan for our life, but and we're not supposed to boast about tomorrow, right? That's biblical too, right? Don't boast about tomorrow, for you don't know what tomorrow will hold. So we don't want to be presumptuous, but we also don't want to procrastinate. So there's this tension between these 2 things, right? So we need to make plans, but we need to make sure that we're walking within the Lord's will and asking him to, this is my plan. Is this the plan that you have for me? This is the way I'm going to walk. Okay. So imagining unborn tomorrows begins with bold, brave prayers. And so sometimes like the plan that we have for our lives, like our plan A is actually like not God's plan for life, right? So what might look like failure to us is actually God's plan A for us. What we're like, well, this was plan B. This wasn't my plan for my life. It's actually God's plan. It's actually God's plan A for you. Tiny little side note story here. Kevin, my husband, was a full-time worship pastor at this church that we loved. Our whole family loved it so much, and we were moving into multi-site, growing, really really growing and expanding. And so what I thought the plan for our life is that we were going to go this way, and we were going to go more full-time, more deep into this. I was the director of hospitality. I thought I was going to be the director of hospitality over all of the churches, over all the multi-sites. My plan, Amy's plan, was I was going to walk away from Plexus and do this, because this was what I thought God's plan was for me, and I was super excited about it. And so, in a crazy twist of fate, not fate, but the Lord was like, no, that's not the plan I have for you right now. This is the plan that I have for you. And so right now, in this season of my life, this is my main job. It's not what I thought it was going to be. And so what felt like this was like my little hobby. This was my side thing. The Lord's like, actually, no, this is what I have for you right now. And I want you to put your whole heart and soul into it right now. This is the season. This is the chapter that I have for you. So what sometimes things might even feel like failure, or like this wasn't my plan. It's actually God's plan. And there's safety there, right? And there's rest and there's joy there too. When we trust him, when we trust him with our life, we trust him to write the story of our lives. And oftentimes it involves like stepping out in faith for the first step before he shows us the second step. And we just have to walk it out in faith and trust that he'll show us. Okay. So the Latin root for the word deciding to take this step, deciding to take this calculated risk, the Latin root meaning for decide actually means to cut. So we're going to cut the rope. I thought that was kind of cool. So what rope, here's your call to action. Is there a rope in your life that you need to cut? Is there a calculated risk that you need to take? And what is it? And are you willing to do it? One of the quotes he said that I loved is he said, quit living as if the whole purpose of your life is to arrive safely at death. I thought that was so good. Quit living as if the whole purpose of your life is to arrive safely at death. That is, I don't know, that's kind of boring, right? Like we want to do crazy kingdom things, right? But what we talked about yesterday is our job is just to consecrate ourselves and allow him to do those things through us, right? We've got to just consecrate ourselves. But at the same time, there may be a calculated risk that you're supposed to take. You're like, yikes, it's too risky, it's too scary, it's too dangerous. So maybe you take that calculated risk. Maybe you take that bold, brave move after your bold, brave prayer and just see what can happen, okay? Okay, your actions are perfectly designed to achieve the results that you're getting now. Your relational behaviors are perfectly designed to achieve the relational results you're getting. Your health and wellness behaviors are perfectly designed to be getting to achieve the health and wellness results you're getting. So if you want change, you might have to mix things up a little bit, right? And do something a little risky. We need to make courageous decisions that chart a new course. And the best way to break an old habit is to establish a new habit. Can you do it for a day, right? That's the question. Inaction is action, and indecision is a decision. Okay, here's his truth bomb. Most of us are educated way beyond the level of our obedience already. We don't need to know more. Okay, you don't need to watch any more YouTube trainings. You don't need to take any more courses. It's good to take courses, but if all you're doing is taking courses, learning, got to learn a little bit more before I can step out and actually do something. I got to be a part of somebody else's event before I can step out and do my own. Okay, most of us are educated way beyond the level of our obedience already. We don't need to know more. We need to do more with what we know. Thought that was really good. That's what cutting the rope is all about. Don't put off tomorrow what can be done today. So good. Okay. Parkinson's law says the amount of time it takes to accomplish something. So you're imagining something. Okay. I'm sure you're imagining something that you need to do. Maybe I need to learn reels. I don't know why I just feel like I'm supposed to learn reels. Okay. I hate stuff like that, but I'm just procrastinating, right? So Parkinson's law says the amount of time that it's going to take to do something will be the amount of time that you have. So like, if you've got 2 months before you're taking a class, you've got 2 months before your paper's due, it'll probably take you 2 months to get the paper written. If you've got 2 days, it'll take you 2 days to get the paper written. If your paper's due at 6 o'clock tonight, guess what? It'll take you until 6 o'clock tonight to get your paper written, right? Parkinson's law is the amount of time it takes to accomplish a task depends on the time allotted. So that's where we can fall into this major procrastination trap, like, oh, I'll do it someday, okay? Cutting the rope involves taking these calculated risks, these bold, brave moves, and just stepping out in faith and doing it. So what rope do you need to cut? I love that. Whatever you don't want to do today, you won't want to do tomorrow, so just do it. Okay, that's habit 5. Habit 6, we only have 2 habits left, is wind the clock. Time is measured in minutes, Life is measured in moments. And I love this. So the sixth habit stewards time in two ways. So it makes the most of every minute, right? Like counting our minutes, days, weeks, months. That's super important, because if we don't manage our calendar will manage us, right? So that's important. So it's super aware of what's happening right now, but it also has like one eye on the future, and it has one eye on just eternity, right? It's keeping an eye on eternity, knowing that this is not all the be all and end all of life. So it's being super aware of what's happening here and now, but it also has one eye on eternity. Okay. It doesn't lose faith in the end of the story. So Chronos time. Did I have notes for this? Yes. Okay. Chronos time is like quantitative, right? It measures time in minutes, hours, days, seconds. Like I said, that's important because we got to control our calendar, or our calendar controls us. Kairos time, it's about redeeming the time, about making the most of every opportunity. So it's less concerned about arriving at a particular destination at a particular time in record time. And it's more about who you become along the way, who you become along the journey. Okay, so it's about redeeming this time and who you are becoming during this time, which I think is really, really good. And a big thing about this habit is we need to believe in long obedience in the right direction, right? So one of the secrets to longevity in Plexus is just saying, I am in this for the long haul. And I'll have goals, and I'll have dreams, and I'll have, whatever. And sometimes we're going to hit them, and sometimes we're not. But regardless of whether we hit or whatever goal you have in your mind, whether you hit it or whether you don't, here in your mind, you're in this for the long game. You're in this for the long journey, right? Until the Lord releases you. And so just knowing that, so you're going to show up. You're going to show up faithfully. You're going to show up in the mundanity of your excellence, like we talked about yesterday. And you're in this for the long haul. You're going to believe in long obedience in the right direction, showing up consistently day in and day out in the right direction. And if we do that enough times, God will show up and show off. He will show up and move mountains for us. Okay. If we're going to dream big, we have to think long. We are the beneficiaries right now of sacrifices we can't imagine and risks that we cannot calculate. And she talks about right now, even now, you are already the beneficiary of sacrifices and risks that other people took. Most of us, I know I am, living in a house that I did not build. I'm drinking from a well that I did not dig. And so we are beneficiaries of other people's sacrifices. So how cool would that be to live a life and to leave a legacy in a way that our kids and their kids are beneficiaries of sacrifices and risks that they didn't take, that we took for them? So this is about thinking like legacy, thinking long term, right? Thinking long. Quit wasting time and wind the clock for the third and fourth generations coming behind us. And he gives the story of, when the Israelites entered the promised land. Remember, there were 12 spies that were sent out to check out the promised land. And Joshua and Caleb were the only two that came back and said, hey, the land is beautiful. There's grapes the size of a man's head. I don't know, this is Amy's translation. But, let's take the land. Let's take the country. It's ours to take. And 10 of the 12 spies were negative Nancy's. And they're like, no, there's giants. We can't do it. And so as a result of that disobedience, they wandered in the wilderness for 40 years, right? Till all of those old leaders died off. And so now 40 years later, they're finally going to enter the promised land. And this is where Caleb says to Joshua, give me that hill country. I've waited for it. Give me that hill country. And he goes and he conquers Hebron. Okay. Well, 400 years later, that is the country. That is where King David is crowned king. So David is standing on the shoulders of Caleb's success 400 years previous. Isn't that cool? And so when we think that way, what legacy do you want to leave with your Plexus business, right? When our kids and their kids are standing on the success of this is a business my mom and my dad built for me when I was just a little kid, and now it's mine, and so I have this house, and I have, I'm able to put my kids through school because of this legacy that my parents left me. I think it's so cool to think that way. Okay, our brave, when we wind the clock the way that Caleb did, our brave can become somebody else's breakthrough, which I really love. Goal setting is persistence hunting. So go ahead and get some small wins under your belt while going after God-sized goals, right? It builds confidence and creates momentum. It's one way we fly the kite. So set some little goals for yourself, goals that you can reach, but also be dreaming some big God-sized dreams too. Set some stretch goals that should take a lifetime to accomplish. How cool is that to think not just the long term, I'll be cool to be. I hope it doesn't take me a lifetime to get to diamond, but maybe it will. Maybe it'll take me a lifetime to get to double diamond, but that's okay, right? Setting some big old stretch goals that will take me a long, long time to reach if the Lord allows. Okay. And I love also, he talks about that, which I think is so important to think about in terms of this business. God is able to do in a day what we could never accomplish in a lifetime, right? He's able to do it in a day. And so that is where the Lord has convicted me personally in the area of taking a Sabbath with my family, like taking one day where I do no work. And there are times when I'm better at it than others. And I'll tell you, I was convicted of this just last Saturday. We went on a big old family trip, and there was someone who wanted to sign up. And so I was like, shoot, I need to message her and just give her the steps on how to sign up. And then, and I'm not gonna take the time to do it with her over the phone. I'll just give her the steps, and then I'll go off grid with my family for the day. So I rushed it because it was family day. It wasn't supposed to be online. That's like our family's agreement that we do together. It's our family day. And I was just like, I felt like there was an emergency. There's nothing that's an emergency with Plexus. Okay. There is no emergency. And if her waiting a day meant her not signing up, then really she wasn't ready to anyway, right? But I felt personally convicted in my spirit that the Lord was like, you didn't trust me. You didn't trust me enough to just let that message sit for a day. You didn't trust me enough that I am big enough to have you be able to rest with your family for a day and know that I could take care of this. Because really that's essentially what that is, right? Rest equals trust. Rest is saying, okay, I'm going to let this sit for a day, and I'm going to be present with my family, and I'm going to rest, and I'm going to trust that God's big enough to handle my business, and that it'll be there for me to pick up a couple days from now, after tomorrow, after this Sabbath. So for me, I am a major proponent of Sabbath. I think it's biblical. I think that it shows trust. It shows that we are not in control of our business. Even if we think we are, we're not. It's the Lord's, and he can take it from us, or he can grow it. He can do more in a day than we could do in a lifetime. And if we really believe that and trust that, there is rest there, and there is joy there, and there's peace there, and there's rest from striving and burnout, might I add. So anyways, I'm just telling you a personal story of me. Okay. We need to pray like it depends on God, and then we attack each day like it depends on us, and it will look different for all of us, right? So that was just telling you a little tidbit of my story. And God's timing is different for everybody, right? It's different than what we want. Abraham waited 25 years to get his promised son. Joseph had like this series of unfortunate events for 13 years before he was, raised to second in command under Pharaoh. Jesus didn't perform any miracles until he was 30. So God's timing is different for everybody, right? But the thing is too, like we can't envy other people's success if we're not willing to emulate their work ethic, right? So we can't look at Justin and Megan and be like, well, it must be nice to be a double diamond family if we're not willing to put in time and actually put in the blood, sweat, and tears that they put into to get to be a double diamond family, right? There's that dance of like, don't envy what you're not willing, the work, if you're not willing to put in the work as well. Because like we said yesterday, oftentimes we get these small little moments in the sun where it's like, woo, Megan swept the contest. Okay, that was her little moment of glory, but we didn't see all of the hours behind the scenes where she put in all the time to get to that point, right? Okay, he talks about having fanatical consistency. We hit our target weight 1 pound at a time. We get debt free $1 at a time. We grow in our ranks 1 ambassador at a time, right? We win the game 1 practice at a time. Ambassador, we grow our rank ambassador by ambassador. So having that fanatical consistency that where we show up day in and day out in the mundanity of our excellence, and then we trust that the Lord can do more in a day than we could do in a lifetime. So there's that tension and there's that dance, but that's where there's rest. Okay, believing in long obedience in the right direction. And so he gives 3 little words of encouragement. Don't get discouraged if your dream takes longer than you originally intended. I can tell you how many times I've had to reset my Emerald in 2019. Okay, Emerald, like you have to reset your goal. Who cares? You didn't die. Right? You're pushing. That's what I tell my team every month. I will fight for my rank until I no longer have to fight for it. If I hit it, fabulous. If I don't, I'm not going to die. It's going to be a new month the next morning. I'm going to say, okay, here we go again. Right? So don't get discouraged if your dream takes longer than originally planned. God's aim looks like he's missing the mark sometimes because we are too short-sighted to even see what he's aiming at. Maybe he's doing something bigger and better than you ever originally intended. Okay. So don't be discouraged. Second, do not call it quits unless you are released by God. Okay. If he has not released you, you don't get to walk away. And if he tells you to walk away, you had better walk away. Okay, that's both things. Bottom line, don't devalue the power of 24 hours. There is no standing still in God's kingdom. Either we're gaining ground or we're losing it. So there's no standing still. And whatever we don't count, we discount. So he's like, count all the things, celebrate the little victories, count all of the things, don't discount them, but know that there's no standing still in God's kingdom either. Okay, we need to believe in long obedience in the right direction. We give up too easily. Staying power is refusing to quit. It will not be denied. God is really good at keeping track of what we do right and rewarding us for it. Do not grow weary in well-doing. We should not be embarrassed by how many tries it takes us to reach our goals. Wendy Lawson, if you are listening to this, she just hit Ruby, okay? She has worked for years and years and years to hit Ruby, and she hit it, okay? She fought and she did not quit. And she had better be so, I know she is, so proud of herself for the fact that she did not give up and she is now Ruby. If she had walked away, if she had quit, she never would have seen Ruby, okay? If you walk away now, you will never see what you could accomplish, okay? So just be encouraged by that. And then the last habit is seed the clouds. So today, what you want to see tomorrow. And seed the clouds, it was, what year was it? In 1946, there was a plane, they were doing an experiment. It took off with like 6 pounds of dry ice in it, and they dumped 6 pounds of dry ice into the clouds. They wanted to see by seeding the clouds with that dry ice if they could make it snow, and they did. So that's the term that was coined, seed the clouds. And so in the Bible, we see that Elijah seeded the clouds with his brave prayer. Remember when he prayed, God prayed for God to make it rain, and he asked his servant, go out and see if you see any clouds in the sky. And his servant came back and he's like, I don't see a thing. And so he prayed harder and bolder. He's like, go see if there's any clouds in the sky. And the servant came back time and time again. And then finally he's like, I see a cloud the size of a man's hand or the size of a man's fist. It's like, that's how we seed our dreams. We seed the clouds with big, brave, bold prayers. There's lots of ways to seed the clouds, actually. But simply put, we sow today what we want to reap tomorrow, right? That's the whole big premise of seeding the clouds. And we need to identify the daily rituals that have the highest return on investment, the daily habits that are the high leverage points, and prioritize those. So what habits have the highest point of return for you, right? Sending messages, loving on your current team already, taking care of your people. That has the highest return on investment, maybe a little more than spending 6 hours to make the perfect post with the perfect selfie, right? So being wise with your time. And right on the top of that list is not underestimating the power of brave, bold prayers, okay? Seeding the clouds, the big idea is you dream big by thinking long, and it starts with praying hard. The greatest tragedy in life is prayers that go unanswered because they were never prayed, right? So think of all the crazy prayers that we've never prayed, maybe even wishes that we have, and then ask yourself, have you ever prayed about that? Have you ever sought the Lord's face about that? Or have you just said, oh, I wish this could happen someday? Start by praying about it. Prayer is the way that we write history before it happens. It's the difference between letting things happen and making things happen. And we have to pray through until we see the breakthrough. That was Mark's line, not mine. Okay. Don't despise the day of small beginnings or clouds the size of a man's hand. We do not worry about the outcomes. We cannot control the outcome. You cannot control if you will hit your rank at the end of this month, but you surely can control your outputs. You surely can control how many messages you send and how well you love your people and how well you walk with your team, right? So you control what you can control, and then the rest, it's the Lord's. We can't control it, so you don't stress over it. Seeding the clouds is the sacred awareness that you've got one shot at this thing called life. And oftentimes we have to reset. We have to reset again. So he talks about how we have to reset all the time. Like, we talk about how the battle in our mind, right? Mindset's a crazy thing. But in the Psalms, he talks about this little word, Selah, that's repeated all throughout scripture. He's like, Selah is actually this little word for it's like a reset. It's like a little rest. And so it just represents a little rest. And so that goes back, for me anyways, it goes back to having a Sabbath and having this Selah, this resting rhythm within this working rhythm of our life. And so that it resets all the things. Family Day for us resets everything. We pass like ships all week long. And so Family Day is literally like a reboot. It's a reset. It's are you good? Am I good? Are they good? It's an intentional time, and it's an intentional trust in that the Lord's going to take care of everything, and we're going to reset, we're going to rest, we're going to reboot, and then we're going to start fresh again tomorrow. Okay, how do we stay focused and positive and in the right mindset? I will go back to resting is super, super important. And he gives three little, is it just three? Yeah, three little words of encouragement. His suggestion is starting your day with silence first. God speaks the loudest when we're the quietest. And so not everybody are morning birds. I know that. I know that I love, for me, the sacrifice of sleep is worth 1,000 missed extra hours in the morning to have an hour of silence when my house is quiet. We have a tiny house. We have lots of animals. We have wild feral children. And so for me, an hour of silence is worth the sacrifice of sleep every day in my book. To have that time with the Lord and that morning coffee date with the Lord, it is, and the older I get, the more it is, it means so much to me. It is the most precious time of my day for me. And so, but whenever that is for you, maybe it's a walk in the afternoon, maybe it's before, after your kids are in bed, but this time of silence where you sit before the Lord and you say, what are you trying to say to me? What do you want me to hear from you? That is how, we will stay focused and we will stay in the right mindset. The second thing is taking your thoughts captive, right? You take all of your thoughts captive to the obedience of Christ. And if they're being able to sit in silence and hear the Lord is going to help you know if these thoughts are truth or if they're lies. And Satan's a jerk and he's going to want to fill your brain with lies all the time. All the time. You're not a good leader. Your people are going to leave you. You're never going to be able to grow your team. You're never going to hit that rank that you want to hit. Okay. Those are lies. And so we have to take those thoughts captive to the obedience of Christ. Our focus will determine our reality. As a man thinks in his heart, so is he. So your thoughts had better be right and just and pure and lovely and praiseworthy and of good report. And if they're not, they're lies. And so you have to replace them with truth. And then the third thing is play the long game. Seeding the clouds is leaving a legacy on earth while laying up treasures in heaven. It's not just playing the long game, it's playing the infinite game. It's planting what someone else will harvest. Planting what we'll never see, but someone else will see. I love that. Okay, and just to end, he surveyed 50 people who were over the age of 95. And so collectively they had over like 5,000 years of life experience, right? And so he asked them this one question. He said, if you had your life to live over again, what would you do differently? And then he collected all their answers. So it was 50 people over the age of 95. And there are 4 answers that repeated themselves over and over again. And those 4 were three replies emerged as a consensus. They wish that they had risked more. That's what we just talked about, right? Cut the rope. They wish they had risked more. They wish they had reflected more. The third thing, they wish they had done more things that would live on after they died, a legacy. And then the fourth thing, they wish they'd enjoyed the journey a little more. They wish they had just appreciated and just savored the life that they had. So, and I think that that's so good because the best is yet to come, right? Like, I think that the best is yet to come for all of us. Our kids are growing, our marriages will hopefully get richer and deeper, our businesses will grow, our legacy will grow, but the grass is not greener on the other side. The grass is greener where we water it, right? So he's like, stop falling into the when then trap. Well, when I hit Ruby, then I will be happy about this. When I hit Emerald, then I will know that I'm a good business person. Don't fall into that when then trap. You enjoy the journey now and you savor this now, right? We have to guard the present against 2 thieves. The first is past tense guilt and the second is future tense worry. And that's what we talked about the very first day that I shared is we can get so caught up in stressing about the mistakes we made yesterday, being paralyzed about what's happening tomorrow, that we don't live today. We don't live in this day-tight compartment today, and we waste the only thing that we can control is what we can do today. So we have to guard ourselves against those thieves. Okay. We need a holy urgency, not the kind that is born out of scarcity, but the kind born of God-given passion, the kind that comes from a place of rest and from a place of trust. And we also want to celebrate what we want to see more of, right? When a day tips the sacred scale, turn it into a holiday. I thought that was so good. Celebrate all the little things. Celebrate all the little wins. Have your team be known as a culture of celebration, a culture where you're shouting things out. You're shouting so many things out, where you're loving your people well. Okay, and then just to wrap it up, he just wraps up the whole thing. Remember, we're going back to, we're learning to live in day-tight compartments. We're asking the question, can you do it for a day? And he's like, day by day is a mantra repeated all throughout scripture, right? Day by day. The pillar of cloud led them forward day by day. He says, your strength will be renewed day by day. Give us this day our daily bread, right? We have to live day by day, and this brings us all the way back to the beginning. Can you do it for a day? And if we can, remember, then we ask ourselves tomorrow, can we do it for a day? And if we can, then we're on a winning streak, right? And so if we play the long game, our life will outlast us. It's called legacy, and it's the cumulative effect of a life well lived. And a life well lived is winning the day, day after day after day after day. And that's the end of his book. So thank you for letting me share with you these 3 days in a row. You have had a whole lot of Amy in this group this week. But I hope the book was a blessing to you. Again, I'll just go back to saying leaders are learners. Always be filling your brain with truth. Whether if you're not a reader, listen to Audible, listen to podcasts, things like that. Fill your brain with truth. Fill your brain with goodness. Fill your brain with life and truth. And then you fill up so that you can pour out and splash out all over the people that are in your life, right? The people that God's given you and your sphere of influence that you're responsible for, to love on, to point people to the Lord, to do crazy kingdom things for, right? You have a sphere of influence that nobody else has. You are a leader, whether you think you are or not. So you fill up so that you can pour out and love on the people around you. All right, blessings on you guys. Have a great rest of your week.